So, good evening, everyone. My name's Mark Fernandez. I'm an old student of Tara Institute, so over 35 years studying Buddhism in one form or another, mainly with three teachers, so the Venerable Geshe Doga, Kabje Lama Zopa Rinpoche, who's one of the founders here, and His Holiness the Dalai Lama. So that's the tradition I followed. And so I'll try and teach from my experience. This is important, and hopefully it's of some benefit to you. So I'm going to discuss a number of different topics over the next few weeks in May. So this is Introduction to Buddhism. So it's a little bit different to, I went to a mindfulness course and I learnt this and that. We actually teach mindfulness and a few other techniques and topics, but they're from a Buddhist perspective, so you'll get some idea what it's like to look at the Buddhist path and see if it's for you. If not, you can just leave it aside. Okay, so in Buddhism, the most important thing is before any action is to establish a good motivation. So for whatever you're doing, whether it's work or play or relationships, whatever, to have a good motivation. So tonight, generally when you're listening to teachings, you're doing a bit of listening, and at the same time, because we're complex, we're actually doing a little bit of ruminating or contemplating at the same time. So we can do at least two things at once. So we're listening, and then all of a sudden we're sort of processing it. So we also, there's a third wheel in the Buddhist lexicon. It's the meditating. So you might listen to something and then think about it, and you might do a little bit of meditation on the same topic. And what you'll find is when you use those three tools, and we call them wisdom tools, they deepen your understanding, and you might get a different insight to just listening to something and it goes in one ear and then out the other. So motivation is very important. So it's always good to have a very good motivation. So if you're doing something like this for just under an hour, it's good to have the best motivation you can for that. So that motivation propels whether the result that you get from whatever activity you do is going to be positive or negative or neutral. So if you establish a good motivation at the beginning, then you're well on the way to creating a positive result. So when I try and do that in establishing motivation, I just do it in the morning, for example. I find it's easy, going to have good motivation for the day, because I find it's too hard as the day gets going to keep reminding myself to, make sure I've got a great motivation. But if I can do it one time, it sort of sets the direction. And if I veer off and all of a sudden I'm very negative or so, I can pull myself back. But having that good sort of initial motivation is it's quite directive in terms of the result. So I see quite a few familiar faces, even though this is just over 2 years since I've been here. Is anyone brand new to Tara Institute? If you put your hand up. Okay, so most of you have been to Tara Institute before. Okay, that's good. Very good. Well, welcome to the new people, and also welcome to those who are more familiar with Tara Institute. So as I mentioned, I was teaching here just over 2 years ago, and in the first Monday night teaching I did that year, it was 2020, it was in, I think, February, I mentioned it was the Chinese New Year, the year of the metal mouse. So not metal mouse. And I started to reel off some of the great qualities of that metal mouse. Familial, so it's very much of the family, looks after its own, and so this and that. But little did I know that a month later we'd be locked, effectively the world would be in the midst of a COVID epidemic. It's lasted over 2 years. So anyway, I remember it because I was very optimistic about the year, thinking, oh, well, Chinese New Year, this will be good. But it didn't turn out that way, I don't think. So I think it's been so in Buddhist terms, though, that experience that we all had, it's a shared experience, huh? We had that. We all went through COVID together, didn't we? Even though individually our experience would be slightly different, depending on where we're coming from, our environment and so on. As a collective, as Melburnians or whatever, we shared that experience together. So would everyone agree with that? Yeah. And the world? Yeah. So there's probably no place in the world that didn't experience COVID in some form or another. So in Buddhist terms, we say that's the environmental karma or environmental result. So we were in a sort of peaceful country, lots of resources, not wanting for too much. Could go out with friends, enjoy each other's company, good food, leisure. We could work, and then all of a sudden, bang, it all changed. So that was a shared experience for us, and I don't think it was easy for many people, really. So, in fact, a lot of people, are still suffering today. Just the mental after effects. I work in a medical clinic, so I've got GPs who work there, and their main job has been treating not the physical ailments, but as well as that, the mental after effects of being locked down or having COVID or not being able to get beyond that sort of lockdown mentality. People have sort of become a little bit more insular and can't cope. So that's quite troubling. So anyway, I've sort of seen that third hand in a way, because I'm not experiencing it myself, and the doctors are the ones sort of interacting with those patients. But you can see the after effect of that on the society is quite devastating, really, isn't it? When you find that people can't get back to being with others or working or just getting back into the swing of things because they're just a bit shell-shocked. So anyway, so again, although we had a shared experience of COVID, the COVID pandemic, the individual experience is probably different for each of us. So so in terms of, I mentioned it is environmental karma, and then there's the individual karma, and they're interacting together. So that's a Buddhist concept that I can encourage you to explore. So with the concept of karma or cause and effect, it's not an easy subject. It's not like, I hit the ball against the wall and the ball came back, so there's the cause and then the effect. It's not that it's not that direct. So it has to be sort of looked at and just sort of examined and seeing, what did cause that? I'm not sure. But what caused COVID? I'm not sure. What caused the effect on that person? It's an interaction between what happened in the environment and how that person is made up of. What's their makeup? Can they manage it, or do they need assistance? So, but it's quite a good topic to look into because it's a Buddhist concept. So, law of cause and effect, or karma. So, with a concept like that, no one's asking you to accept it on faith. So, because Mark got up and said law of cause and effect, karma, then I must believe it. So, in Buddhism, it's always comes back to the listener. You listen, you think about it, and if it doesn't make any sense, you just put it aside. So that's important. So what does the law of karma or cause and effect mean? So I'll give you a definition here. So it means that a positive action will lead to a positive result, and a negative action will lead to a negative result. So it's difficult to see, but you might find that the effect, the result, might be experienced in Buddhist terms much later than the initial cause. So you've created so you've listened to the teachings here, for example. I'll just use as an example tonight. Good motivation, fabulous, dedicated at the end. You've got this store of positive energy or virtue. So does that mean when you step out, you'll be immediately struck by sublime happiness forever? Maybe, but not necessarily. So the effect might happen 5 years, 10 years, in Buddhist lexicon, another lifetime away, but it will lead to a result. And that's why virtue's so important, because it does lead to a happy result. So with the law of cause and effect, there's also the idea of rebirth. So you don't just have one life and that's it, that you die and then you're reborn as someone else or something else. So, and that enables that karma to ripen. So that's a form of karma as well. What life will I get after I die? Will it be an ant, or will it be another human form? Will it be something else? So they're all concepts worth exploring. So again, it's the adage. So it's a positive action will lead to a positive result, and a negative action will lead to a negative result. Now, what if you don't believe in future lives? What does that do to the law of cause and effect? It stops, yes, because if you don't, if you have no belief in it, then why worry about it? Because at death, your continuum has ceased. So there are a few big concepts there. Anyway, those are things you need to explore yourself, because no one can make you believe that. You need to investigate that. Is everyone clear on that, or is that that if there's no other life, if it's just this one, and at death, if that's it, then it's extinguished. So there's nothing to propel you, because it's just one life. So in Buddhism, the concept is that you continue on.
You're saying if you don't believe it won't happen?
If you don't believe in it, you don't have to worry about it. That's all I'm saying. Because if you don't believe in a future rebirth, then you could just say, well, look, my actions are my actions. They won't necessarily lead to any result beyond death, because I'll be I'll be finished. Yes, Ingrid?
Christians, they don't believe in karma, but they do believe that they will go to heaven if they're good actions and not all of them, and if they're bad actions and then they will go to hell. So it's kind of like a contracted version of that.
Yes, Ingrid, that's a very good point. So that's a Christian belief in a sort of a compartmentalised result, isn't it? That if you're a believer and you've done virtue, I think there's a virtue in there, you'll end up in this kingdom called heaven. And if you've done not so good things, you'll end up in hell. And is there a middle? Is there a middle? No, maybe not. Okay, but you can see. So that in a way though, that is some sort of, it's an afterlife, if you like, based on results that you've created. To other spiritual worlds. Does Buddhism?
Yes, I'm not coming back to Earth.
Yes. So these are quite. These are cosmological concepts. So it's sort of talking about, well, if not here, where? So we can see our Earth. We can see we've got an animal kingdom, a human kingdom. We know we've got life here. And in Buddhism, they say, well, there's 6 realms. So there's some we can see, and some we can't see. So So to answer your question, there is you could move somewhere else. You could be reborn somewhere else.
So that's Buddhism thinking that?
Buddhism is thinking that you could be born somewhere else other than the earth, and you could even be born as a human somewhere other than the earth. So, sort of a human form. So, yeah. But this form's pretty special. So, again, this is just how Buddhism views the human form in this continent, is that we have that ability, we have a little bit of like balance, we have suffering, but we also have a very clear mind for many of us. So we can take advantage and go, well, it's suffering, is there a way out? We can start to work out, is there a way to happiness? So in other human realms, there's so much overt material happiness or pleasure that they've got no time. There's no suffering, overt suffering. So they have no time or inclination to look beyond the condition they're in at the moment. So there's no energy or input to go, is there a state of permanent happiness? Because they're in some sort of happiness already. Anyway, I'll cover these in a little bit more detail in the weeks to come, but they're interesting concepts because they come to, why did we experience 2 years of COVID? So, and that's a big question, isn't it? We don't know really. We're thinking, it's a lab in China, or an animal that escaped into a market, or the CIA, funding something. So we just don't know what was the root cause of it. But all of a sudden, it went around the world, and we had no vaccine. So essentially, we had to batten down the hatches, all of us really. So, and in fact, we've got the world record in Melbourne, haven't we? We've got the world record for 6 lockdowns, was it? I think we had 6, huh? So, and for me, it's like the one thing that I got from it, and my experience, is I was irritated beyond belief that freedom was taken away from me. So I was thinking, well, I don't mind the vaccines. I look at things empirically, so that made sense. Vaccines, masks, no problem. Distant, all that. But then the continuing, you've got to just lock down. I was thinking, okay. And I think the reason why it irritated me so much is because for me it's counter to being a human being in a lot of ways. That you have to pull back from someone and be a bit fearful, and you can't interact with them because you might catch COVID, or that you might give them COVID. So that was, to me, was a point of irritation. So it probably wasn't very Buddhist, but that was what I experienced. I thought, okay, that's what I'm getting this, and even in Melbourne when we had, you can go to a park, you can walk outside, but you have to wear a mask. And because I live in this neighbourhood, everyone's very compliant. So sure enough, I'd be walking, and we had my mask on, and the other person would be walking, and we'd be on the same footpath, and then they'd cross the road because they were, they wanted to be safe for themselves and for me, But I was thinking, oh man, I can't even, because it's just a wide berth. So anyway, look, someone will write the story, and we'll look back and say, well, did we deserve that world record? Did it make a difference? They can do that in years to come. But anyway, that was one takeaway I had from it. It was like, oh no. Yeah. And I've got friends who are very good students here, so they're very studious. So you think, so they kept at it. They kept studying, and it didn't matter to them whether they were in lockdown or not. They could just study, meditate, listen. But for me, it was like, oh no, this is quite hard. So. Anyway, did anyone have a different experience? I'd be interested to know. Yeah, Ingrid?
I was going to say, at first I found it really, that physical freedom to walk in
Second.
The lockdown groove.
Yep.
What I sort of come to realise that freedom is actually a state of mind. If I stop raging internally against the perceived injustice, and just accepted it, and exercising my freedom within the scope that was available to me, it was just so much easier. And I did have that inner freedom, and actually had that access to it all the time, but I was always looking at that physical outer element.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, that's very good. So that, what Ingrid has just said in terms of within what you can control, having that contentment and freedom, and that's very important, and that comes to a point that His Holiness makes about, if you can do something about something, why worry? And if you can't do something about something, why worry? So you've got choice there in how you respond in the things that are around you. So that's quite important. If you can find something that's you can take out of that situation that's, gives you some satisfaction or peace or happiness, then it's important to do so and not be, overly frustrated. So.
How do you handle that sort of situation whilst it's happening? So I guess retrospectively, back to say rationally, A, B, and C, but whilst you're in the moment, how do Buddhist practices help you through a moment of crisis or a moment where you're quite frustrated, as you said, or distressed? Meditation practices or thoughtfulness, or how will someone overcome something like that?
Yeah. Okay. So how would you overcome frustration or anxiety or distress or whatever? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Because COVID's probably the ultimate example for us. I think is so recent. But so for me, I found routine was good. Like developing, even though it wasn't the same routine as before. Have something that was okay. I'm going to do this and this and this. So I'm going to, first thing, as I mentioned, set a good motivation, have a, good breakfast, clean up, whatever, and then, do this, go for a walk, and then, do some study, prayers, that sort of thing. So that, if you like, gives you a mental lever to get out of that. If there's a funk or something, if you're experiencing it, you go, oh, what can I do to just break that nexus a little bit and give me a little bit of clarity, and so that's very helpful. And I guess the other piece is, and again, this isn't necessarily just COVID related, but in this tradition of Buddhism, there's a lot of emphasis on concern for others. So having that sort of, I'm concerned about your happiness and welfare. I'm concerned about the suffering you're undergoing. So so that willingness. So out of that comes that. Well, I'm concerned, but I'm also going to try and do something about that. So that I found that was helpful. So just rather than me, and look, it's a tough life for Mark. It's like, well, what could I do to help that person, or my partner, or my kids, or whatever? What can I, and to be able to do something is great. I think that, because then you're pulling yourself out of that, what they call a very self-centred approach, which can serve its purpose, but ultimately, in this school of Buddhism, they say, well, look, you can have a bit of that. You need self-love and self compassion for yourself, but you need to also be able to swing your perspective to the wider audience. So there's some philosophical reasons why that is, and one of them is there's one of me, but there are many others. So even in this room, I mean, there's however many we have, but like if I was just me, well, everyone else in this room deserves happiness and doesn't deserve to suffer. So from this to this Tibetan Buddhism school, this tradition that His Holiness the Dalai Lama follows, and Lama Zopa and Geshe Doga, there is that emphasis on cultivating that push to not just think about yourself, but to think about others. And then if you can do something, do it, And that is another technique. So as well as meditation and listening to teachings and studying and all the rest, there's that technique. And that's very useful in work and in leisure, in relationships, everything. If you're with someone and they're more concerned about you're going to be probably very happy, aren't you? Because their focus isn't on themselves so much, but whether you're feeling happy. So that, anyway, does that answer your question? I'm sorry. Is that,
It does in a roundabout way. I suppose I was kind of thinking, someone being, COVID is an example, but even things that aren't COVID. If you find yourself in some sort of despair or in a hard time in that very moment, what tools could you use or what practices could you use to, then
Yep.
kind of lift yourself out of it, I suppose?
Yep. Yeah. Well, that one of changing your perspective from yourself to others is a really good one because it pulls you right out. Another one is seeing that things are impermanent. Is that easy to do when you're in the middle of... no, there's a few shakes of the head there. So that's a difficult one, isn't it? Because you're in the middle of feeling terrible and you're thinking, this won't last, but it's still going. But you can do it because when you examine it.
Such a good reminder when things are intense. This isn't permanent.
Yeah.
The intense feeling.
Yeah, the intense, that feeling, whether it's feeling a bit maudlin or anger or whatever, it's not your permanent state. So that's another Buddhist truism, that all these sort of afflictive emotions are not the permanent state of the beings who live here. So we can lift those states permanently, and what we're left is a clear mind, a happy mind, peaceful mind. So using your analogy is really good. So that intense state. So His Holiness talks about getting angry at his attendants. So can you imagine that? Because he's got a very sharp mind. He's really clear, but he says, "Oh, that attendant, he did this, and it shouldn't have done it." So he says that moment of anger arises, and it's so intense. He's recounting this story that he's probably about to, verbalize it. And he may do it, but what he said was, when he examines it, that intense feeling, it dissipates. That anger can't hold its intensity. It sort of just, on examination, it just falls away. That's quite a subtle point, I think, though, to get to that. But can be done, yeah. Yep.
Does that mean that in Buddhist terms, being angry is not, it's obviously not a useful state to be in, but I spent most of the lockdowns in COVID extremely angry, and it was because I could see the stupidity of the people who should have been leading us and leading the world, not doing the things that were just so obvious that should be done. And there didn't seem to be anything that I certainly could do about it.
Yes. So that's a very good point. So you're in the situation where you're getting angry about something that's beyond your control. So we would say that that's a valid experience, isn't it? It's your experience, so no one can say, "Well, you shouldn't feel that," because and it could be very rational.
Well, lots of people did say to me, you shouldn't be angry. I mean, it's my blood pressure.
Yeah, that's right. So So that experience is your own. I mean, no one can say, well, it's invalid, but it's whether it's very useful, or does it raise your blood pressure, your stress, any other physical ailments? And if you can't do anything about the seeming inaction about the pandemic, etc., then if you hold on to that, it'll just make you feel more and more angry or upset. So.
She also had a close friend who liked the lockdowns.
Yes. Yeah. That might not have made things any easier then, would it? If you so same experience but two different responses. But so there's no invalidation of the feelings you had, but it's just whether it's a useful emotion to have. And I'll cover this in future weeks because anger's a big one, because with the example that very intense, it's one of the most intense emotions because it can come from nowhere and go to the peak of intensity really quickly. Whereas things like, I like this, I like that, it's sort of a little bit more, well, it might be a slow build up for other emotions. Even love, it might be slow before it gets to, I really love that person or that thing. So, but anger is just like that. Anyway, it's a good question. In Buddhist terms, they say, well, it doesn't bring you any happiness if you just hold on to it and you act on it, because you can kill someone, you can destroy things, you can do lots of negative things as just a result of that emotion of anger coming up, because for that instant it can make you quite irrational and do something that you would never even consider doing, but because of the anger you lose all control. So anyway, I'll cover that one in subsequent weeks, but that's an important one because there was, I've used this analogy before, when I was at uni many years ago and I was doing psychology, the theory was, if you had anger, you just grabbed a pillow and you whacked the person who was making you angry, and they'd whack you back, and that outlet would be enough to release the anger, because but that theory was subsequently disproven. I'm sorry. So because what happened is the person with the pillow they got rid of the physical, but then they're still holding on to the anger. So it wasn't an effective remedy. So anyway, there is a remedy to it, but it's not with the. So that was interesting because that was psychology in the 80s. So things have changed a bit since then, but yeah. So so I think we'll do a little bit of meditation, just a few minutes. So if you're a beginner to meditation, the advice is, and this is from Geshe Dogu and all the teachers, is that you should do your session of meditation and it should be short and sharp, finish, and then that's it. So even if you're thinking, I could keep going for hours or days, it's good, it's enjoyable, you just stop. So what that does is it's twofold. One, it gives you an impetus to go again for the next session, because you don't get exhausted, because if you don't, then you might find the next time you try and do a little bit of meditation, you find I don't really want to do it. I'm not enjoying it. It does not bring, so it's important to do nice, easy, short, sharp sessions of meditations, particularly when you're beginning. So it's not I'll use a ScoMoism. It's not a race. So to see, who can go the longest. So it's not just a quality. So it's a quality. If you have a nice quality of meditation, then that's better than going 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, where it's a complete you're phased out. You know, you're completely gone. It's not really, you're half asleep. Whatever it is, it's not focused. It's not productive. So it's very important to do that. So we'll just go through a very easy meditation. So, if this one it's called a breathing meditation. So this meditation is very good in that it clears away any obstacles, worries, and afflictions for that moment when you're meditating on the breath. Because your mind is put at rest, your mind then becomes peaceful and then clear and happy. So that's the effect, if you like, of doing that meditation. So one of the things is you might find when you do that meditation, you know, you feel, yes, pretty good. And the effects then wear off as soon as you come out. You know, no impact on your fully conscious, aware state because the meditation was good, but now I'm back to being me and all the problematic minds keep coming up. But it does give you a bit of space. It gives you get a glimpse of what things could be like when you're in meditation that do filter down or filter across to when you're not in meditation. So that's quite illuminating because, again, in the West, we have this mind that is chattery. You know, like it follows one train to another train of thought to another. It just keeps going all day. You know, like we can't keep still in the mind. So we just keep following. So when you do the meditation, you sort of give your mind and your body a bit of a break. So you get a little bit of clarity, peace, and illumination. So that shows you some possibility. So let's do that. So make yourself comfortable. So the main thing is to try and keep your back straight. And you can be sitting on a chair or on a cushion, no problem either way. So I'll start with the classic things to keep in mind. So you're going to be breathing through your nose. So your mouth's closed. And the focus of your meditation is going to be the breath as it goes in and out through the nostrils. And if you can keep your hands gently on your lap, so your thumbs, so they're joined and your thumbs pointing back towards the navel, so like that. So that thumb pointing back towards the navel, so the Geshe Doga's indicated that activate some energy in that area. That's quite good, and some people can actually feel it when they're doing their meditation. So our eyes are not completely closed and not completely open. So you just want to let an impression of light in. So if you close your eyes, you're naturally inclined to fall asleep or relax too much. So if they're too wide open, you get too distracted. So you just want to let the impression of light in. So we're alert and relaxed. So just breathe gently through the nostrils. And this is the key to this meditation. So as you're breathing out, all your anxieties, worries, concerns of the day are being removed. So they're going out. And then as you're breathing in, you let beautiful enlightened energy come into you. So you just repeat that in and out. And then after a few moments, just switch your focus to the breathing gently through the nostrils, in and out, and try and keep your attention there on that sensation. And we'll do that for a few minutes. So, and if your concentration wavers and you start thinking about other things, just gently bring it back to the your attention back to the breathing through the nostrils. Okay, so just gently bring your awareness back to the room, and then you can open your eyes. So what did people experience doing that? Anyone? Calming, very calming. Yeah. So again, Geshe Doga describes this as the peaceful mind is the happy mind. So this type of meditation, the breathing meditation, is very calming. So again, you're peaceful, calm, and it leads to some form of happiness. So so your experience wasn't being agitated. You actually found it gave you some peace. So that's good. Very good. So with that you can do that practice anywhere, anytime. So it doesn't have to be done on a cushion in a meditation hall. But with meditation practice, the key is to be consistent. To do, if you're going to do a meditation practice, to do it, do it for a minute each day or 2 minutes each day. Do it maybe at the same time, same place, if you can. And that way you cultivate that within you, and its effects are there, and you'll find the effects will start to linger beyond the meditation itself. So that's very good, because then, because that mind that's discursive, that wants to chase after the thought and then it keeps moving, you've actually broken it. So if you can, out of meditation, not have that chatter going on, you're much more effective at everything you do, because you're not distracted by, I saw that was so good, and this, so you can actually see things, and then I need to do this activity, I'll go and do it, and you do it. So it's a peaceful mind, it's a happy mind, and that breathing meditation also develops, that's the quality, is that concentration. So you're able to focus on whatever you want to do for however long you need to do it. So now that we're on the other side of the mountain in terms of COVID, so does everyone feel that they're back to where they want to be, or they're 80% of who they were or should be? No? No. Where do you think you're at?
So I've been in England for 25 years, and I was there. I usually come home half a dozen times a year, and been here. So I was over there for 2 years and couldn't come. But the change that I've seen in my family and in society, I think I'm not sure you're approaching the 80%.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of, let's call it anti-Dan feeling, because he was the one who was making it. He was the mouthpiece, put it that way.
Yeah.
Whoever was making the decision. And we had the same, we had Stephen Boris, who was the Prime Minister for good times, and once he let everyone go party and go and have a drink when everyone else filmed there, all that sort of stuff.
Mm.
I think the effects seem to be harder here on the children than what they were back in the UK.
Yep.
I think back in the UK, the family was unified.
That's right.
And I think they were already unified here, but they were isolated and they learned isolation habits, and I'm not sure that we're going to be untaught.
Yeah, look, it's been recognised. You make a very good point, particularly regarding the children. So during their, developmental years, they have to be interacting. So we have to interact too, huh? We're adults, but it's important for us to interact with each other and with loved ones, with friends, with work colleagues, etc. But for kids, it's more vital because their brains are still developing, so they learn off each other. They learn off their teachers and mentors who can really show. They learn off their parents as well, don't get me wrong, but it's been very tough on them, and not just in Victoria but everywhere really, when you've had to say, well, you can't go to school, you have to stay at home. And what? And you can't go and see your friends, you have to stay at home, so it's sort of difficult. So look, they're already, the powers that be, they're already talking about, well, what can they do as a governmental level or whatever to try and bring the situation back, to get those kids into programs that they're interacting again or dealing with the anxieties and that they have. So I don't think I'm 100% where I was in 2020 pre-pandemic when I was talking about the Chinese New Year. So then I thought, oh well, yeah, things are fine, it'll be all good. But then the 2 years of COVID, I've gone, oh, okay, well. So I'm not saying I'm a broken man or anything like that, but I just think, oh well, there's still some effort to overcome or work through what's happened to us as a society and to me. So, and I think we should acknowledge that too. We shouldn't be just, oh well, that's come and gone, because I think it has had an impact on people. So, anyway, why coming back to it into the code is that the Buddhist, the techniques and the philosophy are very good methods for dealing with those things as adults here. So we can utilise those techniques, the feeling of helplessness and feeling angry and feeling a bit lost. We can utilise the Buddhist techniques to try and bring ourselves out of that. And also we can use it to, on the flip side, to develop, love and compassion for ourselves, and also love and compassion for others. So quite useful. And those are the ways to overcome that, you know, where we were, okay, it's we come down. Can we get ourselves back in balance and happy? And Buddhism would say yes, you can. It's not hopeless, and it's not insurmountable. So that's an important thing to take away from tonight, if nothing else, because it's easy to feel like looking at, okay, it's just too hard and I'll just struggle along, but it can get better, and it should get better. So that and that's the other piece around our capacity as human beings on this continent. We do have capacity to develop that happiness that's permanent, that's indestructible, that nothing will destroy. So that's hard to see at times, but you can catch a glimpse of it through meditation and studying and contemplating. So that's important to take away as well, because it means there's some innate worth, that we do have some innate goodness and value as human beings. So if you acknowledge that, then I think you go, oh, okay, yeah, well, good, I can work with that. So things might be a bit tough, but I can work through those things. So I think if everyone's okay, I think we might finish up in a minute or two. It's a bit before 9. And Ingrid, do they have tea and coffee these days anymore? Okay, all right. To stay in. Okay. Okay, thank you.
The cake maker hasn't returned.
What's that?
The cake maker has not returned.
Oh, the cake maker. Oh, gosh. Yeah, man, the cake maker was so good. I think it was was it the cook we had? No, who was it? The chef. Oh, wow. We'll have to resurrect that one, I think, because the cakes were really good, and it was always nice to share a cup of tea and some cake with people afterwards, I think. So yeah, again, we're human, we're social beings, and that's good. So we shouldn't think, oh no, I'll just stick to myself. If that's your nature, no problem, but we should think that we're social, we should interact with each other, and it's a good thing to do. Anyway, so what I thought I'd finish up with is we established a very good motivation at the beginning. Then we listened. We did a bit of ruminating. You guys gave some very good feedback and comments, so that was really good. And then we did some meditation. So we did quite a lot of things during that 50-odd minutes that we would consider to be very virtuous. So that's important to acknowledge. But one thing is to protect that store of positive energy or virtue that we've created, we do what we call a dedication, where we're saying, okay, I'm going to direct that positive energy towards something. What could we direct it towards? Your friends? You could direct it to your friends, yes. Very good. Anyone else? Ingrid? All sentient beings, yeah. Yeah. So we can widen the scope. So just instead of just saying, well, I've got this great store of energy, I'm going to dedicate it just for me. You can do that, but we could just expand the field a bit. Friends, you do it for all sentient beings. You could do it for specific people. That's very good. And because of that law of karma coming into effect, that will ripen. That good energy or virtue you've created, dedicated, it'll ripen in the future for you. So that's good to know, isn't it? Because if everything you did was random and had no cause, no effect, then it wouldn't matter whether you spent an hour in the meditation hall listening. It wouldn't have any effect on anything in the future. But in Buddhism, they say that yes, that positive energy you have created will have an impact. So I'll cover that in future weeks, because it's not just that it has an impact, but it can multiply. It can get bigger than the original piece of energy that you've created. It can actually grow. So that's an interesting idea as well, because it means you can create, do a small positive action, and it can have gigantic effects for your life and for others. So anyway, that's very good. So we can do that. So we can do that to our quietly among ourselves. You can just close your eyes, and you can dedicate to whoever you want that virtue that you've created in this period in the meditation hall. Okay, so thank you everyone. Hope it was of some value, and enjoy the rest of your night, and hopefully I'll see you in weeks to come. Thank you.